Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to study notes, or we're going to take notes on Lesson 12-3, Simple Interest, which is on page 127 in your book. If you would please open up your book to page 127, we're going to do a few examples from that lesson. 4 definitions that you need to know for this are interest, I, which is the capital letter I. It is the money that you pay or earn. Okay. Sometimes interest can be good, again, money that gets put in your pocket, or sometimes it can be money that you have to pay, kind of like a penalty. But it depends on if you are loaning your money. If you're getting a loan, if you have to borrow money, then interest is going to be the amount of extra money that you have to pay. However, at a bank, if you are depositing money for a certain time period, then that is extra money that you earn. So that would be money that you would get. Okay? So the rate, R, is given as a percentage, but it must be in decimal. We have to convert it to decimal. And the way we do that, I've got an example here, 4.25% written as a decimal. I would have to move my decimal 2 places to the left because of our D2P, that expression. I have a percent that I'm moving to a decimal. So I would have to move the decimal 2 places to the left, and this right here would be the result as that percent as a decimal. Okay? And then time, again, time must be in years. So we're going to do a few examples. I've got 3 examples for us to do today. And these are from the Try These section of your book. Okay? And again, it's from page 127. And we are going to do A. In the book on page 127, under Try These, it says, work with your group to find the amount of simple interest to the nearest cent or penny as needed. So we're going to be looking for simple interest. Okay? And on example A, well, anytime we use a formula, and this formula that I'm writing right here is the formula for simple interest. After our holiday break, and probably after semester exams, is when you will be getting your reference chart, because we will start our geometry unit. At that time, we will be giving you, or we'll be using formulas. And this is one of the formulas, and it is the simple interest formula, this right here. What is I stands for interest, the capital P stands for principal, the R stands for rate as a percentage, but we have to change it to decimal, and then T stands for time in years, just like we had all drawn out here. So for A, problem A, the question is, what is the simple interest? So that's our unknown. Okay, then we are told that the loan amount is for $12,000. We are told that the rate is 2.5%, and we are told that the time is 3 years. So before we begin anything, first thing we need to do, we have 2 things we need to check. First thing we need to check is the rate, and then we need to check our time, because we have a couple things that must be in the right form. So for the rate, since I have this percent, a lot of people, when they're first changing percent to a decimal, there's a decimal in this percent, and a lot of people, what they want to do is they just want to kind of erase this, and they want to say, okay, it says a decimal now, it's 2.5. Well, but I have to move my decimal. Okay, so I'm going to move my decimal just like we did up here. Okay, I'm going to move it 2 places to the left. So when I do that and I have 2.5, I'm going to move my decimal once, twice. So I have 0.2, and there is my rate as a decimal. And then the second thing to check, like I said earlier, we have to check this one. Is it in years? And the answer is yes. So I'm ready to start substituting my values into my equation. So since I'm looking for I, I'm going to leave that right there. My principal is 12,000. The rate as a percent, as a decimal is 0.025. And then my time in years is 3. All I'm doing is substituting in the values in the same order that this equation was given. Okay, and any time, and this is something we'll talk about after break, anytime we're using an equation, we're going to write it down first, straight from the chart, and then we'll plug numbers in as given. So now we're just on the calculating stage, and what I'm going to do first is I'm going to do what I can do mentally, solving, and I know that 12 times 3 is 36. And then since it was 12,000, it's actually going to be 36,000. And then I'm going to multiply by 0.025. So we've been practicing multiplying a lot, just our basic calculation, so we're going to do that a little bit more. So go ahead, pause the video here, and calculate on your own. When you're done, push play to check to see if you have the right answer. Okay, calculating through, I've got 5 times 0 is 0, 5 times the next 0 is 0, 5 times 0 is 0, 5 times 6 is 30, I'm going to carry my 3, 5 times 3 is 15 plus 3 is 18. Now when I go through to multiply by my second number over, don't forget your annex 0 there, and when I multiply by the second digit over, I'm going to start putting my product down here in the second spot. So 2 times 0 is 0, 2 times the next 0, 2 times the next 0, 2 times 6 is 12. Then I have 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Now I'm going to find the sum. So it's 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, lots of zeros, and a 9. Decimal check. I have 0 in this number, I have 3 here, by shown 1, 2, 3 digits behind that decimal. So I'm going to move my decimal 1, 2, 3 places forward, and what that means is that my answer, the interest, is $900. Again, interest is money. In this case, since we had a loan, if the question was, be very careful with the wording, because in this question it just said find the amount of simple interest. Well, then the answer would be $900. But if the question asked how much total did the person have to pay back at the end of 3 years, they're not just paying back $900. That's just the interest. That's just the penalty payment, the interest. They, of course, have to pay back the $12,000 plus $900 on top of that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next screen for example 2. Okay, example B is just like the previous example. We're still looking for simple interest. This time we are told that the principal is $15,000, so that's the original amount that is being borrowed. The R, which is the rate, is 4%. And T time is 6 months. So just like before, there are two things we need to check. We need to check the rate and we need to check the time. So on the rate, what I need to do, again, we can't just erase that percent sign. What we need to do is, here's my decimal. Since it's a whole number, unlike the previous example, my decimal is sitting right behind there. Okay, and I have to move my decimal 2 places back. So my decimal, or my rate as a decimal, is 0.04 or 4/100ths. Second check is time. Is time in years? And the answer is what? The answer is no. So a lot of people want to take time and they would put the answer as 0.6. Easy change to a decimal. It will be 0.5 because 6 right here, whole months. How many months is that? If you think about a calendar, if you picture a calendar, you would have 6 months out of 12. It's not out of 10. And 6 out of 12 simplifies to 1/2, which of course is 5/10 as a decimal. So on your equation, I have I equals PRT. I is what we're looking for. Again, if you look over here, since that's our blank. P is 15,000. The rate is 0.04, and the time in years is 0.5. So at this point, I'm going to pause the video, let you do your calculation, then push play to see if your calculation is correct. So the way I would work this problem out, I would take 4 times 5, and I would get 20. And I've got one digit behind the decimal with a 5, I've got one digit with a 4, and I've got another digit here, 0. That's a total of 3 digits behind the decimal, so I would move my decimal forward 1, 2, 3, and that's just multiplying these two numbers together. I've just multiplied those two numbers together. So I have 15,000 times 0.020. Your answer should be exactly the same no matter what order, because that's that commutative property that we talked about, where I could move the numbers and multiply them in a different order and I still get the same answer. Yes. Okay, so 0 times 0 is 0. Those would all be zeros. I'm going to multiply by the second digit, and I'm going to put that answer right here. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times the next 0. 2 times the third 0. 2 times 5 is 0. Carry 1. And a 3. Now I'm going to count my total number of decimals. I have 0 here behind my decimal. I have 3 digits there, so I need to move my decimal forward 3 spots. So my interest would be I equals 300. The whole number 300. I equals 300. And the last example we are going to do is number 7, which is on the next page, page 128. This problem reads that an X-ray machine for animals costs $125,000. Since that's what the actual product costs, that is the principal. X-ray machines cost that much, and medical equipment costs a lot of money, which is why taking your animals to the vet costs a lot of money. It's why you going to the get testing done costs a lot of money. Okay, it says that's how much the X-ray machine costs. If the loan is for 10 years, so that would be my time, is 10 years, and the interest paid is $65,625. The question that's being asked is, what is the interest rate on the loan? So my unknown is R. Well, in my equation, I have I equals PRT. Since I know 3 of the 4 letters, I'm ready to solve and to isolate the equation, isolate the variable in the equation. So I'm going to start substituting in my numbers. That's the I. It's a lot of interest. My principal is $125,000. R is what I'm looking for, and my time is already in years, so that's times 10. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, I need to isolate R. This is different from the other 2 equations, but we are the masters of solving equations, and our ultimate goal every time is to isolate that variable. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to combine. I'm going to go ahead and multiply those 2 items together. Multiplying by 10 I like to do because it's pretty darn simple. That's moving that decimal. Okay, so now instead of multiplying by that number, I'm going to divide by that same number, and I had 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. Again, dividing, I'm going to have 125 with 4 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. So my rate equals, and then I'm going to do that division problem. I'm going to pause it and let you do the division problem. Actually, I'm going to be super nice to you, and I'm going to tell you when you divide those 2 numbers, you get 0.052. 0.25.